Thank you for joining us. I'm Ogembo Joseph with the news. Inadequate flight preparation, error in judgment, and poor visibility as a result of bad weather were some of the main issues attributed to the Cessna 210 air crash, which took the lives of Roads Minister Kipkalia Kones and Assistant Minister of Home Affairs Lona Laboso back in June this year. These were the findings of the investigation team spearheaded by Peter Wakahia, Director of Air Accident Investigations. The task force was set up to probe the nature of the tragedy and come up with findings and recommendations regarding the crash. The investigating team now recommends, among other things, that the Kenya Civil Aviation Authority should increase their surveillance on certificate holders so as to ensure compliance to terms of certificate. The team investigating into the ill-fated plane crash that robbed the country of the Roads Minister Kones and Assistant Minister of Home Affairs Lona Laboso concluded their task within the stipulated 90 days. The task force now recommends that the civil aviation increase its awareness of the controlled flight into terrain CFIT problem and to implement preventive measures, increase very high frequencies coverage, and consider limiting the use of aviation licenses to non-commercial activities for foreigners. The government was asked to regulate group travel of senior government officials and be vigilant in the immigration office when it comes to issuing work permits to expatriate aviators. The Meteorological Department was also asked to make available detailed weather reports to pilots.
These recommendations, hopefully, if implemented, will reduce or eliminate the possibility of an aircraft accident, particularly as it relates to visual flying. But visual flying requires that the pilot sees where he's going and sees the terrain, and where there's poor visibility, it is up to the pilot to make a decision, either to turn back or use other information and knowledge that he has as a professional to decide on the course of action.
According to the investigators, the pilot who was flying on visual was at a low altitude that it made it impossible for the radar to detect. Lack of recorders in small aircrafts also made it difficult to establish what the pilot's last words were. The simulated path of the flight before crashing indicated that there was error of judgment by the pilot since he flew into harsh terrain and bad weather. Malice was, however, ruled out as a possible cause of the crash.
When a perfectly operational aircraft flies into terrain under the control of the pilot, we call that controlled flight into terrain.
Mainly when you're flying under the visual flight rules, it is the total responsibility of the pilot to avoid all terrain, it is all high ground, and it's also the responsibility of the pilot to avoid collision with other aeroplane, such that in case a pilot ends up in weather and is not able to avoid such, it squarely remains on the responsibility of the said pilot.
Transport Minister Chirao Ali Mwakwere also signed a bilateral agreement with the Transport Minister of Congo, which will see Kenya Airways fly to Congo-Brazzaville 3 times a week. Both the Transport Minister and the Kenya Airways CEO, Titus Naikuni, defended their air safety record of the country and said they had met the required safety conditions.
I would like to assure you that we should not keep away from countries just because it rains a lot. No, we should be there like all other countries that are going to such places. And Congo-Brazzaville is one of those places where we must be in, and we've already signed the agreement.
And we do know that there are funds that have been allocated to make sure that the navigation aids within the region are in tip-top shape. So it may not meet what you would call the ideal situation, but they meet the minimum safety standards. Now, in the event that anything happens and they don't meet the standards, we will not fly there.
The minister said that he will go through the findings and recommendations and confirm that they will be made public after it's presented to the Cabinet and Parliament. Lands Minister James Orengo appeared before the Coca team probing the clandestine sale of the Grand Regency Hotel. The minister refuted claims that he is frustrating efforts for the Coca-led commission to summon him. Orengo was the whistleblower into the whole ordeal, told the Coca team that he had not been officially summoned and was in fact eager to hear from the commission. On Monday, lawyer Stephen Mwenesi told the commission that efforts by the process server to serve the minister with witness summons to have him appear at the commission had failed 3 times. While testifying at the commission mandated to investigate the controversial sale of the Grand Regency Hotel, Orengo reiterated that he had not received any summons to testify at the commission. He affirmed that he had no problem appearing before the commission and that he would have done as was required of him, considering his position being a public officer. 11 students from Upper Hill High School on Tuesday arraigned in court and charged with attempting to cause a strike. The students were arrested after their plan to riot was foiled when police were called in to intervene. Justice Judith Wanjala ordered the students to be released after each paid a bail of 50,000 shillings and a surety of the same amount. Earlier in June, students' unrest in schools led to the death of 1 student and property worth thousands of shillings destroyed. The long wait for the entry of a third mobile service provider in the country may soon be over. The entry of a third mobile telephone is good news to Kenyans as it will stifle competition in the market, thereby reducing rates of mobile use, which are currently dictated by giants Safaricom and Zain. Econet Wireless is set to launch this November in Nairobi and Mombasa and roll out throughout the rest of the country by June next year. The Econet Managing Director Michael Foley said that the company will introduce cheaper mobile services in the country and intends to use R1 billion in order to offer mobile banking services once it's operational. Speaking at a media briefing on an existing partnership with Ericsson, Econet MD Michael Foley reiterated that the company was in top gear and set to launch what they term as the most advanced GSM mobile network in Kenya. He added that Econet will be launched in November this year in Nairobi and Mombasa.
They are in our building and they're currently provisioned for 1 million subscribers. We are on track for our launch in November in Mombasa and in Nairobi. And we will keep to that schedule, and we will keep you advised as how we're doing on that.
The company MD reiterated that Econet will provide SIM cards with a high capacity of about 128 kilobytes. Foley noted that the capacity will accommodate more data than any other SIM card currently in use in the market.
These SIM cards, essentially putting a small computer into every phone and allowing us to manage a whole bunch of different services without having to change the SIM when you upgrade from one service to another.
He further indicated that by retaining Ericsson for the network rollout function, Econet Kenya will be joining the list of more than 195 leading network operators running on the same system in the world.
Sites in Nairobi, or almost all of our sites in Nairobi, will be linked by fiber, and we have partnered with KDN to help us do that, and that will prepare us for the data market as we go along. And that will happen shortly thereafter.
With the availability of the fiber optical cable in Kenya, the company also intends to open data centers in Nairobi and Mombasa, which will be linked to offer better service delivery to their customers. Internal Security Minister Professor George Saitoti has launched an oversight board mandated to investigate the services of the police. Saitoti stated that the body will investigate the past acts of omission or commission by the police with regard to its duties. The Internal Security Minister added that the body will not only investigate complaints about police received from the public, but also those raised by the policemen about their fellow law enforcers. The 10-member team comprising of former police officers, chiefs and representatives from different job sectors are yet to set up office and determine a mechanism of receiving the complaints.